Going to be eating a shock dart, but he's able to makes it
win anything. Sam, defend your team because they haven't won.
Strap yourselves in. It's another 1 hour episode.
Oh yeah.
Spike defused.
Welcome to Press Forward to Defuse. I'm Darth Mike. This is the gang, and this is your weekly spot for Valorant esports news and discussion. And we've dragged Sam and Paul away from trying to buy Champs hoodies long enough to talk about this. They're still actively checking out. If you didn't know, the Champs hoodies just went live, so if you want to go give Riot $100 for a tie-dye hoodie, you can do so. It's not to my taste, as we were just discussing, but that's okay. You could be a young hype beast and get your Valo hoodie for $100. It's $100 hoodie.
Yes.
Right? Weren't the skins enough?
There are some hoodies on there that are like $130. So I feel like, you know what? This is a
What is that one dipped in gold?
I mean, this one is dipped in the color gold.
Damn. Better be putting diamonds in those threads, man. Just studded diamond. What's the thing, like pearl necklaces?
I feel like that would be more
beast?
Expensive than $130 if it was laced with diamonds.
I don't know, man. Riot's got those, got the hookups. We got their it wouldn't surprise me to find out that Riot's got like a diamond mine somewhere. It's, you know, it's just,
where are we going with this?
It's how they get processed. I don't know. We're starting out strong. We're starting out strong here. It's my last show for a while. So I'm gonna be leaving it in these two hands. But before that, let's go ahead and talk about the stuff of the week. I was trying to stall because I know you guys are checking out.
No, I already got it.
Okay.
We're good.
All right.
I think I got it. So
I got it before the show went live. We were doing the countdown and I finished.
Wow, must be nice.
Paul finishes fast. You heard it here first, folks. All right, jumping in. Run it back. Presented by Temple University. Let's talk about the news from the last week. We're gonna finish this one fast too because there hasn't been a lot of news because obviously everyone's talking about champs. First one, big news, biggest piece. Nats is out of mech. Yeah. They previously posted, obviously they're no longer connected to Gambit as the organization. They were free agents looking for a new home altogether. It seems like Nats is done with that part, and now he's looking for a home for himself. He set himself adrift here. Talented player, free agent now available. How we feel about this, Sam?
I'm kind of in two minds about it because I feel like mech, so obviously they had a really rough patch this year just with everything that was going on, the socio-political situation and everything that goes with it, and they just missed their champs qualifier coming out, losing out to Liquid in the final of LCQ, but they were still doing really well. So to me it feels like a little bit of a strange move. Like, it's not like they've completely fallen off, you know? Yeah, as I said, they had some difficulties, but that was understandable. There was a lot going on, and it kind of felt like, well, if they'd just given, I don't know, maybe there's something going on that we don't really know about, which is very often the case. They did just lose Defo as well, so there might be like a change in the dynamic with bringing in the new players. I don't know, but I think it's weird, and I'm kind of sad about it, to be fair, because I love Nats.
Yeah,
I mean, finds a really good home.
I'm gonna miss that like Gambit core, right?
Yeah,
just all being together. But I also think it's the best move for Nats as an individual. If whatever's going on behind the scenes, if Mech was struggling to find like an org that wanted to pick all of them up, especially as we go into like the Riot partnerships next year, Nats is still one. I mean, I would argue he's probably the hottest commodity in terms of a sentinel now on the market, 100%. Right?
Yeah.
So the dude should be picking up a nasty paycheck somewhere going into next year now.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that's some degree of it. I think even when they posted the initial, like, looking for a team offer, I think Nats did post looking for a team offer or individual offers, right?
Yeah.
And I suspect that in his mind, and probably in the minds of a lot of people in the scene, they expected it to be a full package and they expected them to be sticking together. And I think that Nats at some point probably did realize that his value is perhaps a little bit elevated from the rest of his team. And frankly, it makes a lot of sense to try and get one of the top end teams, a Fnatic, a Liquid, one of these big G2, these big organizations with the big moolah, with the big paychecks, with the big fans, to try and yoink him as an individual. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I do think that while it is a bummer, it's always a bummer to see teams break up. Do you think they had more to give? It probably does make a lot of sense for him as an individual. So we'll see. We'll see if Nats can find a home more quickly now that he is adrift in the ocean. But moving on through, we've got a lot of game changes rosters making some changes here. First up, it's Complexity, Maddie and Jennifer, or Refinej. I'm never was sure how she wanted that said. Are now free agents. They are making some changes over in the Cole camp. I think they had already announced one as well, though I don't recall, but it feels like that roster's in a fair amount of changeover at this point. How do we feel about this?
I feel a little sad because it kind of feels like the Complexity women's team are in a similar camp to the Complexity men's team. And I feel like the women's team obviously had a lot more potential. If you think all the way back to like the Summer Showdown 2 years ago, before, Game Changers was a thing, they were GX3. They were absolutely smashing. I think they came like second or third in that entire tournament. But obviously the talent has grown since then. And they've tried to, remain as a core for as long as possible. But then you kind of fall into the TSM trap where you stick with the same team for a really long time. You start to fall off, but you think, but we're still really great. And then it becomes an issue over time. So I definitely think that change is needed. Sucks for these two ladies. I'm sure they'll find a home somewhere, but for the sake of Complexity, given the fact that their men's team hasn't been doing as well as they would like, they definitely want to kind of bolster that a little bit. And it really feels like the women's scene is the best place to potentially make some waves. The men's scene is so unbelievably saturated at the moment. To even crack into like the tier 2 scene is unbelievably difficult. So it feels like with the women's scene still very much growing, there's a lot of opportunity to make the necessary changes and then come back with a vengeance.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just glad to see that it's not a wholesale cut like with the other roster for Complexity, right? They're not just jump in ship this time around, right? The fact that only 2 players get drops, it at least leans itself to the idea that Complexity still wants to invest in this roster at least a little bit and wants to keep it around, which I think is good.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what they do. I mean, they've still got 3 players under contract, so we'll see what their next moves are. But we'll keep an eye on that. Moving on in, we've got Redco coming off of TSM X, going to coach Alter Ego Celeste. What's going on here? Sam? Translate for us.
I mean, this is a really interesting step up, all things considered. The Twilonga is basically just like saying some really nice things about all of the players on the team. So there isn't like a lot of meat into it. But I think that this is obviously a really good opportunity for him. Obviously, being able to coach a champions team, there's a lot of potential prestige that goes along with that. So it is really exciting. And he did also say at the end there that like, there's nothing really confirmed for after that. Theoretically, you would think, okay, well, if they do well, maybe he gets signed on permanently. But either way, if he does reasonably well, he's got that added to his resume. So, I mean, all things considered, it's really exciting for him. I will say that, like, prior to today, I did not know his name. So, really cool that he's gotten this opportunity.
Okay. All right. I feel less bad about also not knowing who this was before today. So,
fair enough.
Paul, did you know who this was before today?
Not by name.
Dope. Moving on. Who cares then? Moving on here. Gildex. Yeah, you got to make us care. Gildex have made some changes. Victoria out. Ness in. All right.
Yes. So going back to like the Medusa series, which was the game or the tournament that was put on by Mel, infamous observer Mel. She put together the Medusa series, and Guild X were playing with a new roster. Obviously not entirely new. Victoria was out, Ness was in, and they performed incredibly well. So it's kind of unsurprising to see that it has become an official thing. And I had been wondering for a while why that was the case, because Victoria is an exceptional player and she was a relatively new player on the team as well, and she'd helped to elevate them so much, and I was super confused. And then I saw this tweet from Claudia, aka Cinnamon, depending on how you know her. And she basically says that it sucks that there we go. Unfortunately, politics separated us. So clearly, this had something to do with what was going on again with that socio-political thing that we were talking about. Because Victoria is a Russian player.
The invasion of Ukraine, by the way.
There we go. The invasion of Ukraine. That bullshit. So clearly that has had an effect on the team. I don't 100% understand how. Maybe it's a ping thing. Maybe she can't go to a team house. Maybe she can't attend boot camps. I don't know the full story, obviously, but clearly it ties back into Russia's fucking shenanigans in the Ukraine.
Sure.
And it's really sad because she's an exceptional player. And it's going to suck if she struggles to find another team because of these same, issues.
Yeah. I mean, these are the unfortunate fallout of incredibly tragic events.
Yeah.
It is a bummer. Moving on. We've got a little bit of esports TO shenanigan news.
What else is new?
Yeah.
Love it.
Apparently, MCT don't pay people. They have voluntary broadcast positions. I will say, knowing nothing about this, obviously the way they've been responding to things is weird in the comments where they say they do pay, but they don't pay, but they do pay, but they don't pay. And they're claiming we have no sponsorship, but they list sponsors on their website and all this stuff. I will say, new organizers, 500 followers on Twitter. I don't know where the hell they're getting 10K to pay out in a prize pool.
Honestly.
But
if you read through the thread, they say that they have no sponsors, that they are just basically footing the bill themselves, whatever that actually means, right? Yeah. It's an absolute mess, and it's not. I wish it was something new that esports like tournament organizers kind of screw over like talent when they can. It's not, right? I had a thread on this a while back ago that I just needed to like vent about on Twitter. It was actually because of these guys when they posted the job thing originally, and I was like, this sucks. That I did the thread originally, but basically a lot of new tournament organizers, they think that having a big prize pool and getting big teams and then paying little to nothing for broadcast is a good idea because on their budget, like when they break it down, it makes sense. But they don't actually know what they're doing then. I mean, these guys have had, Cloud9 and TSM in their games. And anytime I tune in, they're like maxing out at 1,000 viewers. It's rough out here, right? And that's one of those things where if you don't actually pay your broadcast staff, you're not going to get a good product. And that's just the name of the game. And everybody's going to be mad at you. Nobody's going to want to go back to another tournament next time, right? This is a one and done more than likely for MCT now, just because they refuse to try and grow slowly and actually work up and get sponsors and do it a more reasonable way. And they try to blow their load all over this one tournament and it doesn't fucking work.
But I mean, again, so we go back to the doubling down and all of the tweets in this thread, which is really a fantastic read. If you haven't read it, I implore you, please do go check it out. But at one point they say something like, our owner was casting all of the games by himself without getting paid. And I'm like,
that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing to do for your tournament. That is a bad thing to do for your tournament. And people will often, especially small TOs like this, especially defending themselves when they've made dumb decisions, they'll double down in that way, right? They're like, oh, this is a passion project, right? We're getting people who care and they get to cast these big teams. It's exposure, but it's all bullshit. It's all just so that they can exploit people, right? It sucks.
It's literally nice, but worse. But the thing that really, really confused me, right, is in one of the tweets, and we do have it here, but they're like, our talent get paid well. And I'm like,
but they don't.
And he's like, oh, those are the talent that are hired for the season or whatever. And I'm like, but if you have those people, why have you gone into Discords asking for people to come work for free? You're saying you have a workforce that you are paying.
$20 a day. $20 a day to cast C9 games?
Well.
Fuck you, dude. That's so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is just absolutely absurd. And this is the problem with like, so they found the money somewhere, and they were just like, we're gonna throw it at one big event, woo! And the problem with that is you have no idea what you're doing, so you're gonna throw all of your money at this event, and it's going to end up being a net loss because people are not going to want to work with you in the future because you screwed this up so badly.
I will say, I'm going to play devil's advocate here just a little
Uh-oh.
bit. Not in
Oh,
this
dear.
example of MCT, but I am going to say that there is a space for volunteer events.
Absolutely.
But they're different. It's a question of, obviously, you know, what funds are available totally. And at that point, if there are no funds available, or if you just have enough to throw together $1,000 or $500 prize pool or whatever it is, or just your operating costs, that's fine. That's how people get their start in esports, is they start volunteering almost always. And, you know, you work your way up to actually building the skills so that you can charge. But if you want professionals to do things and you have professional teams in attendance and you're offering $10,000 in prize pool, that is no longer a pure volunteer amateur operation.
Yep.
And it's important to understand the delineation. So yes, that I do think there is a room for amateurism in esports. It's how everyone gets their start pretty much. So, you know, don't want to shame that too much, because there's nothing wrong with, you know, if you've never cast before, not getting paid to do a thing you don't know how to do.
It just shouldn't happen on a TSM C9 game, right?
Yes, it shouldn't happen on a TSM.
You know,
C9.
I mean, hell, Sam and I, we both got our start with Broadcast GG. I didn't see, you know, we didn't see a cent for those, you know,
tier 6 games.
Yeah, those Overwatch tier 4 games that we started on, right? And we weren't supposed to. We, you know, that was both of us just getting our start in broadcast. But, you know, it's not like some of the biggest orgs in the game were in those matches. It's not like there was a $10,000 prize pool and $10,000 of budget, right? So it's a bullshit screen to hide behind for this specific example, and a lot of examples where a lot of different TOs will do this as amateur tournament organizers.
Yes, it is very important. Basically the way I look at it is, if anyone is making money, everyone should be making money. This obviously excludes the players, but I mean, as soon as anyone is making money on the product, everybody should probably be seeing some chunk of that to some degree, right?
If you have the money to put on a paid tournament, you have the money to pay people, at least somewhat. And that scales with whatever your budget is, obviously. Like, you know, if you have $100 to give out in some community Discord tournament, that's one thing, right? But when you got 10 grand sitting around, you should use your brain better.
10 grand is a lot of dollars. We'll move on. Suffice it to say, it is a very funny Twitter thread read. And this is not a great allocation of resources. Pay people. Moving on down. Summer Champs happened.
Yeah.
Summer Champs happened in Philadelphia last weekend. If you missed out, like I did, because I was away for the weekend, you're lame, like me. But all reports are that it was a whale of a good time. Saw a ton of people very happy. I was actually really sad I couldn't go, because a ton of the old CS crowd, like the old landing CS crowd, was out for that. Guys like Strong Legs, guys like Whitmer, guys like, I mean, apparently Stellar came out. A lot of the old land crew came through. So I am very sad that I didn't get to attend that, because it looked great.
It was even a really fun watch from home. I think it's no bias, absolutely no bias, but I think NSG did a really good job putting it on.
Full bias.
Unfortunately, I couldn't go in person either. Tanner refused to smuggle me in his suitcase, even though we live like across the city from each other. So unlucky. Maybe next
did
time
see some
I
good
couldn't
bits.
go
We had
unfortunately.
we had Clown Gompers, we had Catboy Tanner. I was enjoying.
I mean, Catboy Tanner is
show.
becoming a common occurrence at this point, but it's still very fun to watch.
I think he's really messed up by making that a part of his brand. There's no escaping that now. You can't get away from it.
I mean, that's just solid brand.
It's great till he's working a top end event and they're making him meow on camera. He's trapped.
I mean, that's still great. Like might not necessarily be great for him in the moment, but it's great for us.
No escape.
No, he leans into it. He's all in on that stuff. It's
just
great.
wait till his kid turns like 15 and all of his friends are like, "Oh man, your dad's the cat guy. Cool." Yeah, it's great. What is that? What was just on my screen?
Don't
I
worry
didn't
about
see
it. Don't worry about it. Don't look too close.
Was that Ravish?
Don't worry about it.
Probably, yeah. Ravish was there.
Don't worry about it. Don't look too
It's
close.
just like a random face, just like across the screen.
But anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was awesome. Ghost, let's talk about the actual Val.
Mhm.
Ghost annihilated. It's what you expect. They are,
Yeah.
you know, an upper echelon North American team in a tournament without any other of those. But they slaughtered everybody, unsurprisingly. A Proto strong mustache led the way, and they rode the mustache into glory, apparently. Also, Kuala was pretty nuts, which is cool to see. Yeah, Ghost Gaming pretty dang good there. Really ran the table, ran the pockets, made themselves some serious moolah as well.
I mean, Ghost Gaming were like 10 points away from qualifying for LCQ, right? So
Yep.
it's not terribly surprising that they just
Yeah.
demolished this bracket. They did a really good job. I do also want to give a shout out actually to Sonics, surprisingly enough. You know, I feel like I haven't seen Sonics in a while.
Mhm.
But they had actually a pretty impressive tournament in my opinion.
I must say, like, looking at, you know, how the groups went over the first couple of days, and then of course the final as well, it really didn't feel like anything too massively amazing and surprising happened at this event. It felt like it more or
There
less
wasn't a huge upset.
yeah, I mean, okay, it was a little sad to see Lenny Time go out so early on, but again, there were some really good teams here as well. So yeah, I mean, aside from that, yeah, pretty stock standard,
The memes weren't
which
strong
we
enough
don't
to propel
often
them.
say in Valorant.
No, it is a game very prone to upsets. One thing that's also interesting, this is something to note, I forgot to mention this on last week's episode, but talking about Oxygen Academy, who got eliminated in the first round of this bracket, but obviously made it into the quarterfinals. They recently made a change. Nerfed is off that roster, which you guys may remember several rants that I've had before about teams that cut Nerfed.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to go well. This is, again, a team with a lot of really talented young players thinking about Redux here. And they had the veteran leadership of Nerfed calling the shots, and we've seen a few teams go off the rails. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to follow Oxygen Academy as time goes on and see if they can maintain structure and order, or if they're going to go off the rails as some previous rosters have as well. We'll
Yeah,
see.
I mean, it's a legitimate question, right? I always thought that Nerfed and Redux were the two brightest stars on that team, right? In terms of performance, Nerfed did a really good job of being like that supportive initiator a lot of the time, and that just gave Redux so much room.
Was it Redux that was young?
Yeah.
One of the players.
Redux is 15.
Redux is not
Yeah.
16 yet, so
Okay.
He's
can't play now.
coming up on that 16
VCT.
marker. It'll be like during next VCT season. We'll see how it goes.
Acad to main team soon, TM.
Good
Because there is no
question.
main team.
Because
In the
there is
chat.
no main team for Oxygen.
Yeah, questions in
Academy
chat
team.
about LANs, in whether there's spectators at these LANs. There absolutely are. There was an audience here. Spectators passes are almost always sold unless some specific venues may not have capacity, so it's always worth checking the individual LAN, but usually that's an option. And also a question about LANs in Texas. There are definitely LANs in Texas. There have been several so far this year. There might be more on the calendar. Probably are.
There's
in
going
the
to be a
League of Winter
collegiate
Champs.
one in Texas in November
Ooh.
at some point. Red
Hell
Bull
yeah.
Campus Clutch, I think.
That's
if I remember.
specific.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. Hey.
Sometime in November. So keep an eye
Oh,
out.
well,
for
Yeah,
that as
Campus
well.
Clutch is coming
yeah.
back. They're also bringing back, what's the other one?
Home grounds.
Homegrounds. Yeah,
Homegrounds,
that's
yeah.
also
We talked
coming
about that.
back. Yeah, Red Bull in it to win it.
We have talked about that. But yeah, Summer Champs was awesome. Can't wait for the Winter Champs. Hell
Truly.
yeah. But let's move on to the big champs. Speaking of which,
Yes.
it's time for champions. It's not just about hoodies. It's about Valorant and more.
I mean, it's a lot about the hoodies, to be fair. And there is a
In-game skins.
Tactibear plushie, okay? You can buy a Tactibear plushie. Shit you not.
Sam, we're not
Damn.
sponsored by the Riot merch store. We're not
I
sponsored by
I
the
should've
Riot
grabbed
merch
that
store. We might as
instead.
well be.
I mean...
Because you two are shills. Shills. But we're not sponsored just yet. Rito, shoot us some free merch and we will be.
Send us some merch, yeah. That'd
Um,
be great.
Let's talk about champs. Holy crap.
Yes.
It's champions
Oh my
time.
god.
It's so early this year. Like it's August and we're gonna declare our champion. It's wild.
I'm not ready for the off
This new
season, dude.
calendar, man.
I'm not ready for a 6-month off season.
Hey, I mean,
Well,
hopefully it'll be good for NA events. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean,
True.
it'll be like a tier 1 off season, but like all those third-party events bubbling under the
Yeah,
surface.
yeah.
Like DreamHack have been showing interest, apparently Blast as well. So there's a few TOs that could be diving in, so it shouldn't be too bad.
But let's focus on champs right now. Not talking about the offseason, not getting ahead of ourselves. We're talking about champions. We're going to crown the world's champion. So let's look at these groups. We talked about them a little bit last week. We did a little bit of a preview. Group A, PaperX, Edward Gaming, Leviathan, Team Liquid. Group B, Optic Gaming, Boom, Zeta Division, Loud. Group C, FPX, Crew, Xset, Xerxia. Group D, DRX, Furia, Fnatic, 100 Thieves. I mean, these matchups are bonkers. And so, of course, we had to do some pick'ems for the group stage to figure out what's actually happening when. So we did, because we deliver. We know what you people want. You want group stages. Also, you want power rankings. Those will be out next week on Nerd Street Gamers, or just nerdstreet.com/news. So keep an eye out for that. We'll all be contributing our power ranking. But first, it's time to find out who's got the pick'em, who's got the sauce, and who is completely lost. Let's find out. We'll start with my pick'em, the best pick'em, the correct pick'em, the guaranteed
The
right
messiest pick'em.
Oh, look at that beauty. It did not
The
upload in
Mike
very good
classic.
quality. I apologize. I should have sent that to Cody directly. That's very pixelated because I posted it in the
terrible.
outline doc. But suffice it to say, walking through, Edward taking the first dub, Liquid taking the dub as well, and then I think Edward makes it through. Why do I think Edward makes it through? Because they're mysterious. They're exciting. And I like saying that Edward is winning games because it's ridiculous. Down in the bottom, I think that PRX beats Leviathan. I think PRX makes it through. I'm saying Liquid goes out. I'm saying it's Edward and PaperX making it out of this group. I think that's pretty cool.
I think that's a pretty
spicy.
reasonable take. I think Liquid
That
had
is certainly a take.
I think Liquid had a really, really abnormally strong performance in that last match of the LCQ. But unless Scream is able to do that every game, I think Liquid is going to struggle a little bit. Yeah, I mean, Scream is a monster generally, but if anyone can do it, I'm not counting them out. But
I don't know, man. Liquid, they're that team. Like they do well, then they get to LAN, and then they just bomb.
yeah, exactly.
Or like they'll do reasonably well, but they never do as well as you expect them to on
Exactly.
LAN. So yeah.
All right, so we all agree with my Group A because I'm the smartest. Group B, Optic Gaming, Boom, taking Optic, of course. Zeta Division, Loud, taking Loud. I think it's Optic and Loud that make it out of here. I think it's Destiny that they meet again, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just can't escape each other. Star-crossed
I'll be
lovers
honest. I think most of your bracket is pretty tame looking through.
Here. That's no
Except
fun.
Group D, I'm a little interested by.
Yeah,
Mine
100
is
D's making it out
super
top
tame.
seed.
Yeah.
Oh well,
Yeah, I have
beating
Fnatic there, to be honest.
beating DRX. That's a bold take right there for the young
That is-
rookies who have most of them never been on LAN.
Sean Baygaras and DDK, Mike's Brain Trust, I believe. All right, so we're just talking about Group D now? Yeah, all right, sure. Why not? 100 Thieves
I mean,
beat Fnatic.
does anyone
Poster?
have anything different?
More
for,
like
Group C?
L poster, coaster.
I
More
think
like
I had something
coaster
different for
because they're
Group
putting
C.
a drink on them. That didn't make any sense. But anyways, moving
No.
on here. I think 100 Thieves surprise. Here's why I actually do think that there's a chance that 100 Thieves come out and surprise. It's going to require that they adapt to LAN very quickly. They've only got 2 players. Austin is the only one with international experience. Stella's the only one, I think, who's played much of LANs in general before this at all, and obviously not on this scale. But I think that Sean, DDK are going to have imparted some knowledge, going to have uploaded some knowledge to their brain about how to adapt to LAN. I think that I like to imagine they've got a simulation set up at their boot camp where it's just like Mike's throwing drinks at them or something. I don't know, like yelling, throwing popcorn. I think they're going to surprise because I think that 100 Thieves as a team is what we've seen from them is they are a team that thrives on time to prepare, on time to adapt. And now they've finally had it. We've seen them continue to ascend their level, and they've had a ton of time to watch tape on Fnatic. And I think that, the gears are going to be turning in the Brain Trust's brains. They're going to be working out the master plan. They're going to come out and they're going to surprise Fnatic. Fnatic have had some slow starts in events, right? Like they're always good. They're always in it. But they're not always perfect right from the jump, right? So I think if there's a weak moment for Fnatic, it has to happen there. I think that's how 100 Thieves do it, and I think that's enough to propel them on over and in. I still think Fnatic makes it, though, because they're really good at the Valorant.
I
Cody,
feel like you're overestimating like the players' abilities to adapt and not leaving enough for like the margin of error and stress and but we'll see. We'll see.
I think
Sure,
Aston is a machine.
Cody, if I could screw with
Anime pro tag.
your order real quick, Cody, if we could actually go to my bracket next, because I have almost the exact same thing as Mike. Like,
To be fair, mine is
across
fairly
the
similar.
groups.
We're so boring.
Like our group A and B are the exact same. I think there's room for Zeta
Y'all
to
have a lot of
maybe
hopium in
beat
this
Loud.
Edward Gaming team.
In what? In Edward Gaming? Have
Dude,
you
I
not
think
watched have you not watched Edward Game?
I
He
mean,
is
that
so
means
good at
nothing.
gaming.
I do think that
Okay,
Edward
but
is very
that
good at
regardless,
gaming.
I do think
Edward
that-
has never been at a LAN either.
Yeah, I will say the Edward.
That's true.
the-
But you know, for me, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It is a little bit of hopium, right? For the crazy China team who just absolutely diffed everybody at the East Asia qualifier. Like they didn't drop a single map the entire time. They play like absolute maniacs.
Yeah.
Just taking every single gunfight. I think there is absolutely room for EDG to just lose 4 maps in a row and be out if people read them on LAN. But I have hope that their crazy whimsy style is going to succeed. And obviously it's hard to bet against Paper Rex after they were just our runner-up at Copenhagen, right?
Yep.
The one thing I will say about this group D is where we're mostly different here, Mike.
Okay.
Is that
Not that different.
you brought up how 100 Thieves is really good with like when they can prepare and they can read into their opponent. The problem is that it's like a month and a half-ish, maybe more actually, since we last saw Fnatic play. They've had a lot of time to change some of those issues, some of those consistencies that they had at Copenhagen, right? And 100 Thieves kind of have shown like they struggle in like the first game or two, and then once they have like very recent footage, they demolish people. So I think that they're gonna struggle in that first game a little bit against Fnatic, but then absolutely run through that lower bracket in their group once they actually get footage on, you know, teams like Furia and DRX.
Okay. I think that's reasonable. I am going to say you copied my bracket because you made yours
Also-
just before the show.
Xerxes is
Copy
going to
my
beat
homework.
X at game 1 because they always beat NA in the first game. They always beat NA in the first game and then lose to them
I
later.
say
So
screw your pattern.
Xerxes is going to beat Xset in that first game.
Exit.
That's
I'll
just
be
what's
honest.
going to happen.
Exit as a pick is my one that I think is the biggest hopium. We need to see them
Yes.
have really matured from the last time that we saw them in international competition. But we'll see. We'll see if they can do it.
I do
I'd
also
be
think
hyped
they're
if they
in
did.
a very vulnerable group, though, right? Like
That's the
FPX,
thing.
FPX is the threat in that group. FPX is making it through that group, but the
100%.
other 3 teams in that group, realistically, none of them have had good international performances this year, right? Technically speaking, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for any of those 3 teams to make it out, just depending on who actually shows up.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Definitely the case. Let's take a look at Sam's. Let's take a look at
Yeah,
Sam.
for
Sam,
sure.
what you got for pick'ems?
Sure. So I am not on the Edward hopium. In
No,
fact,
no
I
Edward
think that
hopium.
Edward is going to get knocked out so fast. Like, because the
think they
thing is,
lose to
right?
him?
We have seen teams from unknown regions come out and be like, "Oh, we're just gonna hold W and win gunfights."
Yeah, Paper
and
Rex.
like they get no, okay, Paper Rex. There's still some strategy behind.
Oh
it.
yeah, for sure.
This is the difference, okay? Because I mean, it was like when we were watching Last Masters. I'm trying to remember who it was, Optic versus, but I remember distinctly going like, they're getting strat diffed, and the only reason they're winning is because Yay goes burr. Okay, now unless Edward has a Yay, they are going to get strat diffed. So I don't see them doing.
They
well.
absolutely do, though. His name is Kang Kang. Also, as fun as it is to say like Edward Gaming don't like, you know, they're all aim no brain. They actually do have like really interesting and good strategies too. I think they have the best fracture strategy in the world right now, potentially. Obviously, have to see if that holds up on LAN, but they didn't drop more than I think 4 rounds in a single time throughout like 6 different plays of or 5 different plays of fracture. In the East Asia qualifier, right? They absolutely demolished everybody, and they have a really cool like double entry, double duelist strat with the Neon and the Rays that is just so good for taking space on fracture and keeping really high tempo, and I think that's really helpful on that map. if you know how to do it.
That's the thing, because I really like that composition, but it's been pulled out a few times, and very often it gets shut down because you have to give up something in order to have that setup. And invariably, the thing that you give up is what causes all of the issues. So I'll be curious to see if it does work out in any way, shape, or form. But all things considered,
or if they
not
even
on
get
that
to play it.
hopium.
I mean, if I go up against Edward
Yeah.
Gaming, I'm just banning Fracture.
There's something you both
that's also
haven't
a
considered
possibility.
here.
Or, you think, well, I know how to deal with this composition, so you make a fool of them on their best map. Way.
There's a factor you
so
both haven't
that's
considered
my
about
group A.
Edward.
Wait,
though.
I do have
I can't
liquid
hear
coming
Mike.
out of it.
I see
Oh.
Mike talking, but I can't.
Mike
Did I
talking?
lose my
Hello?
microphone?
There you are. Now
Oh, hey,
you're back.
Did
What
Cody
what
just
did
mute
you
me?
do?
Cody just muted me.
Well, I couldn't hear you in Discord.
There's something.
Yeah,
Cody,
yeah, it
Cody
was
just
just
forcibly
great.
muted me. I was gonna say there's something you guys haven't considered about Edward Gaming, which is that my middle name is Edward, so they're repping my brand clearly, and they're just gonna take the dub over everyone.
Didn't know that.
Just gonna take the win. Yeah, today
So
you learned.
anyways, I also think that it would be silly to count out Paper Rex. Purely, well, obviously they did incredibly well in the last Masters, but also Bankai is, he's a treasure,
Yeah.
and I can't.
I mean, you have
you know-
Liquid over Paper Rex, which I think is the most hopium of anything in this bracket.
It could be. It could be.
I
Sam
think
having
that's a
EMEA
wild
opium?
decision. You
Never.
literally
Never
just said
happened.
like Liquid have generally been really bad at LAN, and then you have them beating Paper Rex, who came second at Copenhagen.
I'll be honest. My
definitely a
main thing
bold
here
choice.
was like I started my pick'ems, and I was like, all right, so these are the two teams that are going through. How do they get there? Doesn't matter. Meh. And then I just did some stuff. The main thing is about like the two teams that actually make it through at the end of it, because no one actually cares about how they did it. If we move on to Group B, I was this close. I was this close to having Optic lose out in match 1 because they have done it in both Masters. They absolutely tank in the group stages
That's
and
fair.
then have the hero run. But
But it's
given the
boom.
team that they're up against,
Yeah.
it was really difficult to bet against them in that one. And then I was really close to putting Loud on like above them, and then I realized like they've beaten Loud twice.
Pretty
Loud have only
consistently.
beaten them once, and it was in like a period. It was in that like initial group run where they were looking really, really rough, and then they had to like bring it back, and then they did, and then they smacked Loud in the finals. So it would have been absurd to have Loud winning that one out, but I do have them coming out on top of it. And it really feels bad for Zeta. I feel like if Zeta was in like Group C, maybe they have they have a better chance of making it out. But the group that they're in with Optic and Loud, it's
I
tough.
will say, I think there's room for Zeta Division to get out of that group. If Loud or Optic, honestly, do their classic like fumble like at the beginning, right? Because
Yeah.
if Zeta wins against Loud first game and Optic does their game 1 flub, right? Then Zeta just has to beat Boom. I don't think
Yeah.
that's an impossible scenario. And also Zeta Division is going to have 10 back, right? 10 hasn't been playing with them for a while because he had like a medical thing, but he's going to be in for Copenhagen. Or not Copenhagen, for Istanbul, right?
Istanbul.
not
So
Constantinople.
I
It's
think there
Istanbul,
is
not
room for
Constantinople.
Zeta Division to have a good run, despite the fact that we didn't get to see them at Copenhagen.
I think Group C is probably the most vanilla for all three of us. There's literally like no differentiation there.
I can't believe
except
none
that-
of you are on the crew hype train.
No,
I thought,
no.
I thought
They-
there'd be crew
They
love. That's
disappoint
false
me
I
then.
wish.
every single event.
Well, Invicta
yeah.
in chat is on the crewpium. Xset loses to crew.
see
Invicta
that.
says.
That's-
You've all abandoned the crew
that is
faith.
a take.
I don't think it's I mean, my thing with Crew is that they still have good talent on that team. They just haven't put it together at an international event this year, right? Like they were at Copenhagen, and they ended up, barely squeaking out a win versus Loud, and then they got slapped by Guild and Optic, right? Like I said, I think anybody could make it out of that group potentially. FPX is going to be there though, right? So there's one spot, and you're fighting 3 teams for it. And Crew are going to start in the lower bracket, and I think that makes it hard for them.
You are ridiculously wishy-washy. Like, I can't decide if you're smart or if
What do
you're
you
just
mean I'm
the
wishy-washy?
ultimate fence sitter. You are so wishy-washy.
In what sense?
Yeah, I picked these two teams, but you know what? this team could definitely make
Well,
it. They're
yeah.
looking really good.
It's
I
all
think this
really good
builds to a-
competition.
I think this
fucking
builds to a
take
fundamental
something.
point. Well, no, this builds to a fundamental point. I like analyzing the ways the team could make it through, and I also like saying that this is the champions of the world. These teams are supposed to be the best teams in the world. You know, these
Yeah.
16 teams represent the best of each region. If every team doesn't have a path to at least make it out of groups, what the hell are they doing here? You know? If you have no world where you could see the team surprising and making their way through, they shouldn't be here. So I think it is absolutely valid that everybody at least has a path to victory. I think that's dope, even if they're going to get absolutely wrecked in the first round. But it's dope that you could imagine a way. That's how you
Oh.
have fan hope.
Sam out here calling me wishy-washy. She says Liquid suck on LAN and then has them beating Paper Rex.
He's got you there. He's got
That's
you
not
there.
wishy-washy.
He's boomed you.
That's hopium.
That's
There's
regional
a
blindness.
difference.
Same as region blind for a region she doesn't reside in. Moving
I,
on.
I don't reside in any region.
That's true.
Like,
Just
I should
it
actually
lives
be
in
ultimate
the
wishy-washy.
stratosphere.
Yeah. So
That should be me.
South Africa to champs 2023. But here's
God,
my
no.
question for you. Here's the big question. The only question that matters. Who's winning the damn thing? Who is going to be our 2022 champion team? Who's got it?
FPX.
Okay. All right.
Very,
Justify it.
very lukewarm take there.
It's pretty boring, but yeah,
It
justify it.
wasn't meant to be a hot take. It was meant to be an honest take. Like, so they struggled a lot at the beginning of the year because of Russia.
The invasion of Ukraine. Yep.
And and they couldn't get to Masters. They were unable to participate. And everyone was like, I mean, we even spoke about it. We were like, could they have done it had they been there? And it was really hard to figure that out because we just didn't know. And then Masters 2 rolled around and they proved, yes, they could have. And I think that they're looking incredibly strong at the moment. Definitely the best representative, in my opinion, that EMEA has right now. So I think it would be odd to not have them up there as, you know, one of the potentials. And I think that, like, as much as they haven't had as much of the international experience as a lot of the other teams, I feel like they've had the most consistent performances when they do. You know, you look at a team like Optic where they like have good performances and then they like get knocked out really, really early on. Or even Fnatic, you know, obviously in the one Masters they played with 2 subs. That was unfortunate, got knocked out in groups. But they've also had their moments where they've looked a little shaky. Most of these teams have. In my personal opinion, FPX has been the most consistent team at all of these major events. Now, Paper Rex could be an interesting. I had them as my winners for the last Masters event, and I thought that they did incredibly well coming into the grand final. And if any team is going to be my dark horse again, it's going to be Paper Rex, because with their trajectory continuously improving from event to event to event, I think that there is 100% a world where they take that crown.
Okay. Paul, who you got
I
taking
think-
the dub?
Here's the thing. Follow me here.
Okay.
I think if you don't have FPX as the tournament favorite, you are dumb, right? But since when has
Fair.
a tournament favorite ever actually won?
Yeah.
In
yeah.
Valorant.
True.
Ascend came out of nowhere, man.
It's always the teams you don't expect.
Okay,
It's
so
always
using
the
this
teams out of
backwards
nowhere.
logic, who do you think's gonna
So
win?
it's going to be
But
Edward.
It's
You spoiled his take, Sam. You spoiled his take.
Please don't tell me I actually spoiled your take.
That is his take.
No.
Um,
Please.
All right, Paul.
here's the thing. I'm gonna say Edward Gaming, not because I
No.
think they're the tournament favorites, but because I think that they are a potentially very strong team that isn't expected to win this. It's a dark horse, right? That
is
being
a
said,
very dark horse.
that being said, when we did like power rankings this week, I had them at like 5th or 6th, right?
Even that height's absurd.
I mean, yeah, like, dude.
Dude, all right, so let's talk about how the Chinese FPS style has traditionally worked when international LAN gets hit. I'm going to spoil something for you. Poorly. Very
Yeah.
poorly. It turns out
Yeah.
that it's a lot harder to run at people when there's not a ping differential, and it's a lot harder to run at people when everyone knows that's what you're going to do. So, as much as I'm excited by the Edward Gaming meme, and I think they could make it out of group by continuing to surprise, I think there is a hard cap on how far they make it, and I really don't have any hope for them actually making it through. I think that it's just maybe needs a little bit more time to battle test. We'll see how the adaptation goes. But I think the style they use to run over Southeast Asia is not going to work.
Yeah, speaking realistically, I think that's fair.
So, yeah. All right, so who's your other take? Do you have another take, or are you just leaving it with Edward?
I mean, just to not say FPX again, I think Optic are the other team that has like really consistent international performances this year, right? Optic has hardly missed an international LAN. This year they won Reykjavik, Sam. Don't give me a.
But did you see what happened in Copenhagen? Like, can we take a second?
They still got what? Third? Fourth?
That's something that we should remember. Third. They got third. Third
is still good.
I mean,
that's
top
still
three.
A good performance. Paper X came out of nowhere. FPX had a bomb tournament.
Sam's talking about
like
consistency.
Where
Optic has been the most consistent team of the year.
I don't know, man.
Pretty clearly. They were
you know what? True story, I just don't like Optic. And I haven't since their first performance. So
why?
They could literally be the best team in the world. Okay, 2 reasons.
Okay.
Chet irritates me and his whole attitude to everything. And also, I hate the fact that they can go into a map with what is the opposite of superior? Inferior? Strats, but Jaego Burr. Okay? That pisses me off. That should not be enough.
That's true for so many teams,
should not be good enough to take a team from to like one of the best in the world. It's just absurd.
See, I just don't like their match fixer, but the rest of the team I love.
I mean, valid, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
But hard to get past that one for me. But the rest of the team I love. I think Optic's a reasonable take. I'm going all in on the 100 Thieves hype. I'm like, I can't even articulate exactly why. There's this special sauce being captured right now, and it's the fact that they've improved continually and steadily. And in my mind, this team is still so early on in its existence, right? That I don't know where the ceiling is, but I know we haven't reached it yet. So they already look good at the end of the last chance qualifier. I think there's an enormous amount of individual young talent on this team that can continue to learn and grow and improve. I don't know if this first international stint they're going to be ready yet, but I think that there's a world where they've continued to ascend at a level where Asuna and Derek and Bang and that crazy amount of young talent that they've got is going to be able to absolutely explode. And I also think most teams, yes, I know with the 100 Thieves brand being what it is, everyone's going to be aware of this team. I know that Asuna, everyone's aware of Asuna, but I do think that like the EMEA teams may underestimate this, being that it is their first international stint. I think there's a world where this 100 Thieves team really comes out and surprises with the staff they have behind them, with the investment they had, with the importance that they put into this. I think there's a world where this team really goes out there and bangs.
I think that is actually a pretty fair assessment of 100 Thieves right now. And when I was looking for, Sam was waxing poetic about FPX and I was thinking about what my spicy take was going to be, I was debating between like Edward and 100 Thieves. My concerns for 100 Thieves lie in that inexperience. And then also, they also come from the LCQ. So they have a lot of recent footage against them, right? And they're starting in a group where they're not going to have necessarily that same advantage. I think if 100 Thieves can hang on and make it like a decent run in the playoff bracket, they're the back room there of the Immortal Minds is going to have an absolute field day with the amount of footage that they'll have on their opponents. And then it just comes down to whether or not the young guns on 100 Thieves can keep a consistent performance through something like 6 to 12 games.
Yeah, we'll see. I am excited though.
And also if they don't get an NA matchup in the first round of playoffs.
I mean, they will inevitably, but it's okay. We can survive. But either way,
get EMEA as well. So don't stress about that too much.
There's a ton of storylines here, right? There's the teams that have done well internationally. I'm talking FPX. I'm talking Fnatic. I'm talking Paper Rex. I'm talking Optic, right? To see if they're going to be able to maintain and continue their strong form, their dominance. There's the teams that haven't done it well internationally to see if they can finally turn the corner. And maybe this is the time where they've had enough experience to change up what they're doing. Your Crews, your Leviathans, your Zeta divisions to turn that corner to to really be a top-end contender. There's your new kids on the blocks, your 100 Thieves, your Edward Gaming, to see what they're going to be able to do. There's the repeat customers. XSET coming in for their second international stint. Was one enough to get seasoned? Who knows? I don't know. But I can't wait to find out. Champions is right around the corner. It starts next Wednesday. Incidentally,
Yeah, it does.
there won't be a show next Wednesday because, Champions is happening. It's this thing.
Yeah.
But it's exciting, man. The World Championship is always a good time. It's always a bit of a tingle. It's exciting to see what's going to happen. It's going to be in an arena with live fans. Hell yeah. That's
the
sick.
one interesting thing about that. So obviously there will be multiple language broadcasts. The casting in the venue is going to be in Turkish.
Yes.
Which I suppose makes sense because it is in Turkey.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I feel like that isolates a large portion, all of your viewership outside of just the Turkish viewers.
Sure.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know what the language situation isn't like. A lot of countries are comfortable with English as like a second language. I don't know if that's the case in Turkey or not, right? And I think it is more likely that they get a significant portion coming in from locally, right? Like, I don't know a lot of people who aren't working the event who are flying out to Istanbul all the way across the world, right? So it's a lot of like EU and like Turkey regionality at the very least, right? So I don't think that's unreasonable.
I think that the thing is as well, because of the late timeline for when they announced that there would actually be a crowd and sold tickets, it's not like you can anticipate it being a huge international audience. If people knew that tickets were on sale 6 months ago, sure, you could plan your trips and make it a destination thing. But when they're like, yeah, it turns out we're going to have a crowd. Like, yeah, that crowd's going to be Turkish.
Like 3 weeks
because they're going to be like, oh, this is a cool thing to do for the weekend, as opposed to let me plan international travel. So... yes, I think it makes complete sense. I think it makes complete sense. I think Riot's priority is to have as hype of a crowd. It doesn't matter what language they're shouting, and you just need them shouting, right? So whatever language you calculate is going to get the most of the crowd as hype as possible. That's what you want to do. Maybe it'll stink for the international audience a little bit, but at the end of the day, if the crowd's going apeshit and screaming, put in earbuds and listen to the international cast. Just go ham with them, man. Go ham with them. Like, that's the energy of a crowd is more important than any specific word said in the arena. So, I'm excited for it.
But go ahead. Not that with it being a good idea, but just with like, if I were there, I would enjoy it far less because I would not know what the cost is. The main reason that I rarely watch a lot of international stuff is because I don't understand what the casters are saying, and I want to know what the casters are saying because that's part of the enjoyment.
Sure, but imagine being from Turkey and not knowing English and going to an event in Turkey and having no idea what's going on. That's worse in my opinion, right?
Yeah,
sure.
I think it makes sense. You appeal to the maximum number of people, and that's the maximum number of people per their estimation.
Currently, the maximum number of people going are scalpers. So.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that makes it even harder for international people to show up, right? Because the tickets all got scalped.
Can't
if
haggle
you're a scalper,
in Turkish.
I genuinely hope someone smacks you with a cactus.
With a cactus? I don't think
can
they
go
have
get
a
a
lot
cactus.
of cacti in Turkey. More
You know
in
what?
Arizona
I can
where
bring
Paul
one.
is.
I'm from the desert, man. I can get one.
They have a lot of cactus in South Africa?
Well, we are like a lot of our biome is semi-arid desert vibe.
Just
yeah,
didn't know whether it
succulents
was
are
more
like
like
super.
grasslands or cacti. Because
It depends where you are.
out in the
to be
Southwest,
honest.
we got mad ass cactuses.
I got a lot.
We have
lot of
every
cacti.
single biome except for Arctic. So there you have it.
That's pretty dope.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Everything you could want in South Africa. This tourism ad brought to you by a
And the
sponsorship by the
Except
South
for
African Bureau of
Valorant
Tourism.
Champions, because that's
And
going to be
Hey!
in Istanbul.
Hey!
You also cannot get Valorant merch because they don't ship here.
Shout
Unlucky.
outs Rito shipping.
Thanks, guys.
Sam cannot spend $100 on your hoodie and then another $100 to get it shipped. She has to get it shipped somewhere else.
And then another $100 on the customs.
You're just having a great time. You're just having a great
honestly.
time all around. And we're having a great time
Africa!
here. So thank you so much for tuning in. I think this wraps up our episode of Press Forward Diffuse. Now that we've ended on a nice tangent, I'm going to be on a sojourn away from the show for the foreseeable future. Probably be back sometime in October, maybe. I don't know. So these two jokers are going to be helming the ship for a while. Good luck with that, gang. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you not next week, but the following week for more press forward to Defuse action. Good night, everybody.